thanks for coming to Monterey to address us on the zillions of issues that the 5th District faces, especially the ones you've been touching on today. The one that concerns me is the continuing push of more vineyards and wineries onto our coastal hills. I see, and I'm going to direct my question primarily to Lynda Hopkins, a great amount of the vineyard owners, based on how I see your signs all over the giant vineyards in the West County, are supporting your candidacy. How are you going to resist your decision-making when you join the Board of Supervisors, if you do, after the dust settles and the election's over, and resist the pressure, the tremendous pressure they're going to charge you with to vote in their direction rather than in our direction? That's a real concern of mine. And I'd like to see what you have to say to that pressure, and also the real estate industry pressure that's also in your corner. And that's a big gorilla in our room too on the West County. Thank you.
So one thing that you will find out if you get to know me is that I am not afraid to piss people off. And so I actually have already taken positions that directly oppose the positions of many of my supporters. And actually, I would say that yes, it is very true that I have received campaign contributions from vineyard owners. I actually have a tremendous amount of support throughout the agricultural industry. Cannabis growers, food farmers, dairies. Basically, if you are someone who is involved in agriculture, you know that at least if there's someone who gets elected who has been a farmer for the past 9 years, they understand the fundamentals of the business, even if at the end of the day they don't agree with you. And actually, the Farm Bureau held a fundraiser for me early on in the primary. And I got up there and I said, yes, I've been a farmer for 9 years. And what I'm here to promise you is that my door will always be open to you, as it is to the entire community, and that I will always listen to your side of the story, but I can guarantee you that at the end of the day, we are not always going to agree. And I think that's a tremendously important message. And I think it's tremendously important to maintain independence in a campaign. I have refused to sign any pledges. I have refused to accept any money that came with some kind of a predicated quid pro quo. And I actually rejected about $20,000 of maximum donation checks that I felt like came with a specific policy ask, because I don't want to pre-commit any of my votes. I will say that I feel that my resume speaks for itself. I've been an organic food farmer for the past 9 years, which, as I mentioned earlier, is literally the 1% of agriculture in Sonoma County, and I have fought for that 1% for the entire time that I've been farming. So I think that I'm actually probably the only person in this room who has actively tried to take land out of wine grapes and put it into food farming, and that's actually what I would love to see more of. So I actually have a number of policy positions, thank you, that were printed in the Gazette of ways that we could actually protect our heritage apple orchards, ways that we could actually diversify agriculture in Sonoma County. But you've got to understand agriculture in order to be able to sort of talk to farmers and get this done. And so I would say that, at the end of the day, they probably were like, someone who understands, who has used water, who has grown things, and someone who hasn't. And so that's why I've received such a broad diversity of support. And I'm also supported by, McClellan family, Doug Beretta, a lot of organic dairies, and I actually would love to work with all of these entities. I know I'd have to drag the vineyards kicking and screaming, which I'm willing to do, on developing nutrient management plans. I think we have an opportunity as cannabis becomes legal to, for the first time, when you go to get an agricultural permit, you have to have a nutrient management plan where you test your soil before you add anything to it, because we do have a tremendous problem with agricultural runoff. And I think that could be become part of VESCO, and it could become part of what I do too in terms of food farming. Dairies are already regulated by sort of clean water issues, but the rest of agriculture largely isn't. And I think that that's something I'd love to work on.
So to actually get back to the question, I think that what you raised was issues of overdevelopment of wineries, conversion of our forests into vineyards, and how are we going to protect our local coast? Because let's face it, with climate change and increase in temperatures, the wine industry is only moving west and more towards the coast. And as I mentioned, the county is in the process of updating its local coastal plan. That's the part of our general plan that actually regulates land use development on the coast. The coast is a specific well protected, or should be well protected, zone. And we need to have specific policies that protect it. The current proposal by the county is to simply adopt wholesale the policies with respect to event centers and wineries from the general plan, which apply in other parts of the county, and put it into the local coastal zone. And I don't think that's appropriate. I think we need some very strong, specific policies to protect our coast. We have seen in the West County way too many conversions into vineyards, and we don't want to see that continue, especially as time goes on and climate change continues. The trees in the forests are much more valuable standing upright than vineyards will be to the community. So we as a community have to take a stand and say no more. You may have heard about the dogwood timber harvest plan up on the Wallala River. If those hundreds-of-year-old redwood trees are cut down as proposed, the Wallala River, which now runs clear, will be subject to much increased sedimentation and, of course, displacement of wildlife. A nice little group of people, Friends of the Wallala River and Forests Unlimited, who I've worked with extensively, went to court and actually got an injunction to at least temporarily halt that harvest of this very important timberland up there in on the Wallala River. So we need to stop that as well. Event centers is something that has been overdone in various parts of our community, including Dry Creek Valley and Sonoma Valley. We don't want to see that same kind of over-concentration on the coast. And that's really what we're talking about. Who do you trust to say no? Who do you trust to actually enforce policies that protect the coast? Who do you trust to protect the forests from conversion? That's the question that you folks have to decide. And I want you to have all the information. I trust you with that. I've represented you for years, and I know that 5th District voters, West County voters, are some of the most informed and engaged in the entire state of California. So you're here tonight, you're listening, you've got the information, you can go see all of the campaign contributions because I've posted them on my website. Find out for yourself. Make your own judgment. I trust you to do that, and I know you will make an informed decision. But really, the bottom line is, we need somebody that you know you can trust, who has a long record of doing this for you. And that is something that I have done for many, many years.
So I'd like to take the opportunity to come out and state in no uncertain terms that I oppose the Dairyman project. I oppose the tasting room on West Side Road that is sort of masquerading itself as agriculture. It's a tasting room on a 1.75 acre parcel, half an acre of which is planted in grapes. That's not agriculture. That's not an agricultural use of the land. I oppose timber to vineyard conversion, and I support a strengthened local coastal plan because I do feel that the coast needs to be treated differently than the rest of the county because it is different. And because we do need to fight for this and to protect it for future generations. Once things are developed, you can't go back. You can't turn back the clock. And so really stopping this cold on the coast is tremendously important to me. And I would add that one of the biggest problems we have right now is we have a completely ineffective California Coastal Commission. They are just sort of, letting whatever happen. They are really, truly run by development interests. And so it's going to be on us as supervisors to make sure that, what happens on the coast is that it stays undeveloped, that it stays, safe and open and free, hopefully, to all of our residents. So, thank you.